we're hitting record exports, 320 billion in March. The trade deficit down year over year, 55%. That's incredible. 1.6 trillion in manufacturing investments announced since last year, 2025. I mean, you could make the argument we're kind of on fire right now. We get those gas prices in line. It's going to be really good.
We are on fire, Bob, at the end of the day. And, you know, when you contextualize these jobs numbers, there are 65,000 more people that have a job to drive to that are now worried about what they're paying at the pump, right? Like, do you care that much about what we're paying, the short-term pain for the long-term gain? That's what I question. And we're also coming out of an earnings season where we're almost done, companies reporting an average of 15 to 20% gain in earnings quarter over quarter for the 8th quarter in a row. The success of the president's economic policies are becoming undeniable. The challenge is letting the American public understand that.
Right.
Excellent point there. EJ, I do want to get to this. It's a new report from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity detailing what they say is the biggest wealth transfer in American history. Now, based on IRS data from 2012 to 2023, about $2 trillion in cumulative income has left high-tax Democratic-run states going to low-tax Republican states. Maybe no surprises here. Biggest winners, Florida and Texas. The biggest losers, New York and California. And as Mark was just saying, you know, one of the most important things here is communicating these wins to America. This seems to be like one of those wins.
Well, it's very clear that people prefer states where you have more freedom. That means you are free to keep more of the money that you earn. It means that you're free to not have to spend, you don't have to spend so much in sales taxes and property taxes, et cetera. But it also has to do with freedom regarding regulations. Regulations essentially kill economic activity before it can even get started. So the less regulations you have, especially burdensome overregulation, the more free people are in the states with those circumstances. So what I'm getting at here is it's very clear that the data are telling us people ultimately vote with their feet. And what they want are places with low taxation and low regulation. Those are the states that are seeing these huge transfers of income. So people are leaving high tax states like New York, like California, like Illinois, and they're moving to places like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, where you have not only low marginal tax rates, but less burdensome regulation too.
Seems kind of common sense. Good policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's driving a great business environment for some of those states. Also want to hit on this today, our trade negotiations with the European Union. President Trump writing this yesterday on Truth Social after completing a call with the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, writing this: I've been waiting patiently for the EU to fulfill their side of the historic trade deal that we agreed in Turnberry, Scotland. The largest trade deal ever. A promise was made that the EU would deliver their side of the deal. And as per agreement, cut their tariffs to zero. I agreed to give her until our country's 250th birthday, where unfortunately their tariffs would immediately jump to levels much higher. I want to point out what President Trump, and he said it in that Truth Social post, what he's looking for is that U.S. industrial goods, the tariff down to zero, Paula. That could be huge for American companies to have access to that market, and they can't levy any tariffs on us.
Right, absolutely. And that would be great for the manufacturing sector. I mean, that would be great for, again, we've seen steady job creation month over month. And now, if you know, this would only increase what's already been happening.
Yeah, you know, President Trump, of course, though, being challenged on tariffs also, again, just yesterday and also by the Supreme Court. So how do you see all of this squaring together, Mark?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Europe's hurting. Okay, well, we're talking about what a great run we're having here in the U.S. economy, whether it's the stock market hitting all-time highs, notwithstanding the conflict in Iran, notwithstanding the impact of AI and all of these things that we've never even dealt with before. We're doing really well here. Not so much in Europe. Germany reporting GDP shrinking, manufacturing shrinking, job growth shrinking, inflation in the UK. So Europe needs to come to the table and cut a deal or suffer more pain. And in either case, it's going to bode well for American economy and the American industrial complex.
All right, last thing we want to touch on here, rising gas prices. Look, I don't think any of us are naive. People are being hurt by that.
Absolutely.
And I know President Trump has said that is going to be short term, but it is expensive. I've had friends texting me pictures at the pump, you know, it's exceeding $100 for their tank of gas here, but it doesn't look like it's hurting President Trump much on his support overall within the Republican Party. And we got some stats on that. This was a report on CNN here.
I think there's this myth that's going on right now that, oh, Trump is really losing support among Republicans. But compared to other midterm cycles, he's just as popular with Republicans as he has ever been at this point in midterm cycles. Right now, nationally, we're talking about an approval rating on average of 84%. In 2022, his popularity rating was 76%, actually lower, right, when he wasn't in the presidency. In 2018, the last time he was president, 85%. That 85 looks a whole heck of a lot like this 84% right here. The bottom line is this: Donald Trump still absolutely has juice with Republican voters. You saw it in Indiana, and I think that you'll see it down the line as well if any Republicans try and go against the President of the United States, who is still very much beloved by Republican voters nationwide.
Yeah, Bob, that's something that you've been talking about, you know, and then we see it right here.
You see it in real time. You look at Indiana, what happened with the primaries out there. EJ, what's that signal to you?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know if it gives us much predictive value. In other words, when we look at things like the midterms, where it's so important to see what Democrat and what independent turnout is going to be, it doesn't really inform us in terms of what are the ratios going to be in those groups versus Republicans. So I just don't know if we have a lot of practical application for those numbers in a vacuum. Again, give us the rest of the data. Let's see how other groups are feeling about the economy and about the president overall. And then I think you would probably have a better sense of how that might impact something like the midterms.
Well, with the decision that we had in Virginia today, I think we can add 6 more seats to what we're expecting. We started the day with 14 in the redistricting battle, which is being waged equally by both Democrats and Republicans. Right. Politics is business. It's a dirty business. It's war. But I think we are in a lot more comfortable place from a Republican perspective with those midterms as these redistricting battles continue to play out. So I have a little bit more of a rosier outlook than my colleague EJ does.
Again, big news in Virginia today, of course, that those redistricting votes that were done at the polls overturned.
Yes.
There, of course, Democrats not happy about it.
No, they're not. All right, got to leave it there. Marc, Paula, EJ, we appreciate it. Thanks for kicking off the show.